Hey guys, what's happening? Niyat here with Film Comics Explained. It's been a decade since M. Night Shyamalan's The Last Airbender. If you want an example of how not to make a film adaptation, this one is it. Sitting at a crisp 5% on Rotten Tomatoes, Shyamalan managed to get every single thing wrong in his adaptation of Nickelodeon's Avatar The Last Airbender. As far as Avatar fans are concerned, there is no war in Ba Sing Se, and there is no The Last Airbender movie. How exactly did Shyamalan screw up such a beloved series? Let me count the ways. The 2010 movie covers the first season of the animated series Avatar The Last Airbender, also known as Book 1, Water. In the world of Avatar, there are 4 nations: Earth, Air, Water, and Fire. The nations used to live together in harmony until the Fire Nation attacked. Each nation contains people who can control their respective elements, a phenomenon referred to as bending. In each generation, there is one person who can master all 4 elements, known as the Avatar. We're told that the Avatar was missing for 100 years until Katara and Sokka, 2 members of the Water Tribe, accidentally discovered the Avatar, an airbender named Aang, frozen in ice. Once Aang is freed, the 3 embark on a journey across the world so Aang can master all 4 elements and stop the Fire Nation. Book 1 specifically chronicles Aang and Katara's journey to meet Master Paku so they can learn waterbending. Over the course of 20 episodes, Aang comes to terms with his destiny and learns more about this new future he's been thrust into. The film cuts out a lot of Aang's journey in an attempt to condense an entire season into 100 minutes. The script, written by Shyamalan himself, does little to actually adapt the source material. The director chooses to keep only a few key episodes, including The Boy in the Iceberg, The Southern Air Temple, Imprisoned, The Storm, The Blue Spirit, The Waterbending Master, and the 2-part finale, The Siege of the North. Cutting down on filler is fine and necessary, but even the episodes that Shyamalan keeps feel very watered down. The movie winds up feeling like a SparkNotes summary of the entire series. Since 20 episodes of content are being crammed into a single movie, the pacing is atrocious. You get no meaningful character interactions, no exploration of lore, and no reason to really care about anything that's going on. It's just plot point after plot point after plot point, with little regard for character motivations or development.
We left there in a storm on Appa and got forced into the ocean where they almost drowned. I think you're in that ice for almost 100 years. Firebender started a war. Fire Nation knew the Avatar would be born into the air nomads, so they exterminated all the air nomads. They haven't been able to conquer big cities like Ba Sing Se, but they're making plans, I'm sure.
The movie suffers greatly due to forced exposition. The world of ATLA is rich and has deep lore that really can't be fully explored in a single movie. In an attempt to make up for this, Shyamalan has Katara narrate the film incessantly. It feels very forced, and at times it's even nonsensical. In one narration, Katara calls Aang by name and explains his motivations, and then in the very next scene, she asks him what his name is. Why bother having her narrate his introduction if he's just going to introduce himself in the next scene anyway? Then there's the casting choices. The first thing you'll notice as the movie starts is that our heroes are white. Avatar is well known for being incredibly diverse, with a cast of East Asian and Inuit characters, and a story that blends mythologies from Buddhism, Hinduism, and other cultures. M. Night Shyamalan is Asian himself, so it's bizarre that he didn't see the problem with having white heroes fighting exclusively Indian and Iranian villains. He actually defended his castings, saying the movie and its proposed sequels would be the most culturally diverse tentpole movies ever released, period. Sure, there's a counterpoint that the best actor should get the role regardless of their race. I can dig that, and think that should apply to everything. Shyamalan himself said, "I don't care who walks through my door, whoever is best for the part, I'm gonna figure it out like a chess game." Realistically though, you can't defend the casting choices in this way because, well, none of the acting is good.
How'd you get all the way out here?
I ran away from home. We got in a storm. We were forced under the water of the ocean.
Oh, I see.
It wasn't very smart.
Newcomer Noah Ringa is awkward as Aang for most of the movie, though a large part of that awkwardness may have been the script's fault. Aang's fun-loving energy has been completely stripped away. Jackson Rathbone plays Sokka way too seriously, and why any studio thought that the sneering, steely actor should play a comic relief character like Sokka is beyond me. The few humorous moments that Sokka gets in the movie, which are taken directly from the animated series, like when Katara accidentally freezes him in ice, are totally ruined by Rathbone's deadpan delivery. Nicola Peltz was reportedly Shyamalan's #1 choice for Katara. I don't know why, because she adds nothing to the character. Though again, it may be less her fault and more the script's fault. Comedian Asif Manvi is tragically miscast as the villainous Commander Zhao, and it doesn't help that all of his lines consist of more forced expository dialogue. One of my favourite characters in the animated series, General Iroh the Fire Nation and Prince Zuko's uncle, was also robbed of his playful humour. In the animated series, he treats his self-imposed exile like a vacation. He's always drinking tea and slowly putting his nephew on the honourable path, but not even the charismatic Sean Tube could salvage anything for his character to play with in this dry and serious script. The standout by far for me was Dev Patel, who actually does a pretty decent job as Prince Zuko. Patel's character benefits from having such a powerful history and clear motivations. His father looks down on him, had challenged him to a conflict, burned his eye when Zuko refused to fight him, and exiled him until he found the Avatar, which makes every decision Patel makes for his character work really well, with the exception of his need to give exposition to characters who are passed out next to him. But even Patel has expressed his own dissatisfaction with the film. Truth be told, it probably wouldn't have mattered who was cast to play these characters anyways, because they've all been stripped of any of their charm. There is absolutely no chemistry between the main trio. They're all empty shells, absently marching along and doing vaguely heroic things. A key point in the series is that Aang struggles internally with his role as the Avatar. Specifically, the episode The Southern Air Temple is a huge turning point for Aang's character development, because this is when Aang must seriously come face to face with the fact that the Airbenders have died as a result of his actions. It's a very emotional episode where Aang gets overwhelmed with grief and enters the Avatar state for the first time. The movie reduces this key character moment to Aang dramatically yelling, instead of entering the Avatar state or exploring the Avatar state at all. Aang meets a garish computer-animated dragon instead. This dragon spirit is a bizarre composite character that blends all of Aang's mentors like Avatar Roku, Guru Pathik, and Co with Avatar Roku's pet dragon Fang. Whittling these characters down to a mere plot device hurt the film's already weak characterizations even more. You know what else hurts? Discovering that you've been compromised online by the Fire Nation. Yes, that's right, this video is brought to you by the vanguards of secrecy and revolution, Surfshark VPN. We spend 6 to 8 hours a day online. The internet knows a lot about us, and that's why we should care about our online data, and who, if anybody, should be able to see it. Use Surfshark to encrypt your personal information and send it via secure VPN tunnel, so that no unwanted eyes can see it. With Surfshark, you can also protect your ID using its HackLock system, which alerts you anytime your email address or password is compromised. Online businesses seem to know how affluent their website visitors are, what devices they use, and how likely they are to pay a price. That's why people from different countries see different prices. Avoid region-based discrimination on flights, car rentals, and much more. Not only can you save money, but you'll also have access to region-blocked content on streaming services like Netflix. So, if you'd like to have a safe online experience using a VPN that offers 24/7 customer support, a 30-day money-back guarantee, and absolutely no recorded logs, get Surfshark VPN at surfshark.deals/filmcomics and enter the promo code FILMCOMICS for 85% off and 3 extra months for free. Back to our film. Another major problem with the movie is that Prince Zuko also gets his character nerfed. Zuko is known for having one of the best redemption arcs in cartoon history, but the film is a lot less subtle about his transformation. And since both Aang and Zuko's characters have been stripped down immensely, the film doesn't explore any of the parallels between them. The episode The Storm in particular highlighted many of these. The episode uses mirrored imagery, mirrored dialogue, and mirrored flashbacks about Aang and Zuko's scars to paint the character similarities. The movie adaptation of the episode, of course, blows over these in favor of more forced expository dialogue, opting to have the origin of Prince Zuko's scar explained by a random, unnamed boy instead. And this scene was just really strange for me because you have Prince Zuko and his uncle having a conversation before Zuko turns to this random wayward kid and asks him about who Prince Zuko is and why he's been banished. Since the movie is so rushed, it's very difficult to follow what's going on if you haven't already seen the series. The blue spirit and the moon spirit are not explained very well, and the concept of the ocean spirit is totally nixed. Instead of Aang merging with the ocean spirit and becoming Koizilla, something that would have looked awesome on the big screen, Aang causes a tsunami during the finale instead. There's also a strange choice to introduce the Avatar rule towards the end of the movie, which states that no Avatar can hurt anyone. In the series, it's Aang's personal resolve not to kill others, but not an actual rule of the Avatars. The film's explanation is unnecessary and totally retcons the lore of the series. Fans know that Avatar Kyoshi definitely hurt and murdered people, and this really robs Aang of any agency. To make matters even worse, nobody in the movie seems capable of pronouncing character names correctly. Aang, Sokka, and even the word Avatar are all delivered as Aang, Sokka, or Avatar.
So, are you the Avatar, Aang?
Shyamalan claimed that he wanted to make the name sound more authentically East Asian, but hello, dude, you just cast white people to play East Asian characters. If you're worried about authenticity, Aang wouldn't be played by a kid named Noah. Another huge high point for the ATLA series is the fantastic animation. The awful cinematography of The Last Airbender shows that live action is not inherently superior to animation. In fact, I think with animation you can get away with a whole lot more. The movie's action sequences are incredibly boring. The director uses wide shots when filming fights and leaves the CGI effects to do the heavy lifting. It's a shame because it seems like the film actually had some decent fight choreography. Noah Ringa, who plays Aang, actually got the role because of his taekwondo skills. Too bad you don't really see them on display except for a few key scenes. Since the visuals are so static and crowded, your eyes don't know what to follow, resulting in a garish viewing experience. The bending itself is terrible. The literal CGI effects don't actually look too bad, but they don't blend well with the film at all. It feels like the actors weren't told what effects would actually be animated into the scene. Take, for example, the earthbending sequences. When the earthbenders go to revolt against the Fire Nation, a whole team of earthbenders yell and stomp around dramatically, only to raise a single rock and toss it towards the Fire Nation soldiers. And it's not even a big rock. At that point, they would have been better off just picking the rock up and throwing it at them. It's unintentionally hilarious, and it actually made you feel bad for the actors. The fight scene between Katara and Master Paku, which is a part of the deleted scenes, is another great example of how terrible the effects are. In the anime, this is one of the best waterbending sequences, and one of Katara's most badass moments. The fluid animation and high-paced action makes the scene legendary among fans. In the movie, well, the bending is so slow it makes you wonder why they even bother learning waterbending at all. Honestly, if the movie had at least churned out some big exciting action sequences, some of its casting and storytelling sins could have been forgiven, but M. Night couldn't even manage to throw in Hollywood explosions in to break up the monotony. The movie did go for some showy Hollywood clownery in the end though. It had a rushed 3D conversion in an attempt to cash in on the Independence Day weekend big bucks. In April of 2010, it was announced that The Last Airbender would be getting a 3D version. Funnily enough, April 2010 also featured James Cameron criticizing unnecessary 3D releases, saying that a 3D conversion in 7 weeks was not possible. You can't do it. You can't slap a 3D label on it and call it 3D. There's no possible way that it can be done up to a standard that anybody would consider high enough. Awkward timing there, considering The Last Airbender only had about 2 months to go 3D. That same year, the infamously rushed and borderline unwatchable 3D conversion of Clash of the Titans was also released, so the warning signs were all there saying, don't rush a post-production conversion. Despite this, Paramount Studios still put out a 3D version of the movie, and the results weren't great. Cinema Blend, one of the few publications to give the movie a decent critical score, reported that the 3D version was done poorly and that it made its characters look like a series of paper cutouts inside a shadow box, rather than real images happening just a few feet away. Since 3D conversion is a lengthy process, Paramount Studios reportedly cut around 30 minutes of footage from the film so that they could speed up the conversion process. This likely added to the film's haphazard pacing and confusing narrative. Despite just about everyone hating the film, The Last Airbender actually didn't fare too badly at the box office. It made a total of $320 million worldwide, which isn't too bad for a $150 million film. However, was it really worth it in the end? Sure, they made some money, but they also made one of the worst movies ever. ATLA's original creators, Brian Konietzko and Mike DiMartino, tend to act as if the movie doesn't exist. They told the Nerdist podcast, A, we didn't want it to be done at all. Before anyone was attached, we didn't want it. B, if it was going to be done, we wanted to do it, but they weren't going to let us. And C, when they attached Night, we just thought, well, this is what we've been dealt. We'll just offer some help when it's asked of us. And if it's not, we'll stay out of the way. In that same podcast, they stated that it was a huge waste of money, potential, and time. Despite the series creators dunking on the movie, M. Night Shyamalan defends his adaptation. In 2010, he claimed that American critics just didn't get him because he has a European sensibility to filmmaking. As recently as 2015, he told IGN that the only reason critics didn't like it was because he made it for children, saying, "So you could make it one of two ways. You could make it for the same audience, which is what I did, for 9 and 10-year-olds, or you could do the Transformers version and have Megan Fox. I didn't do that." An odd defense, considering that the movie was not fun at all and cut out any of the light-hearted, kid-friendly moments from the animated series. And that leads to my biggest gripe with the film. It isn't an adaptation that captures the spirit, pun intended, of the animated series. The original series was fun, hilarious, and at some points devastating, but the overall energy was positive. We learn about the characters through action, not dialogue, in that we piece together their identity by the things they do or choose not to do. But in the film, none of the characters have much of a personality or agency, and we're just told who these people are and what they're trying to achieve. Instead of trying to condense an entire season into one movie, I think they should have based the film on the first 8 episodes, ending with Winter Solstice Part 2, Avatar Roku. In these 8 episodes, each of the main characters are fleshed out, we understand their personalities, what drives them, and what their goals are. It's also a major turning point for Aang, who travels into the Fire Nation to communicate with his predecessor in order to understand and accept his destiny. This would have removed the need to cram the rest of the season into the film, just to cover important plot points for the sake of covering them, in favor of looking at a few important moments that help define our major characters. I mean, what's the point of covering so much ground if it has no real bearing on the story, and the characters don't end up going anywhere because of it? To me, it feels like the movie was made by people who'd heard about the animated series, but hadn't actually seen it. Because if they'd seen it, they would have realized that they'd messed up the story, characters, and tone. Or perhaps they simply didn't care. On the bright side, at least we know we'll never get any more of the Shyamalan Avatar. Originally, he was supposed to helm a whole trilogy, but obviously that was cancelled. In fact, Netflix announced in 2018 that they would be making their own live-action Avatar. No matter what happens, it's probably safe to say that this adaptation will be better than M. Night's The Last Airbender. With that having been said, that's all for today, folks. Don't forget to hit subscribe and click the notification icon to stay up to date on all my content. And if there's anything else you'd like to request, please don't hesitate to ask. As always, it's been a pleasure. Niyat here with Film Comics Explained. Thanks for stopping by.